Hello everybody, welcome to TraderMerlin Show. It is your Wednesday edition. It feels so weird having not done a show. I was all excited to do one yesterday, but I was completely gassed from the session that we did for cryptocurrencies. For those of you here who, I don't know if some of you were in that CIL program I did last night from 6 to 8, but I'm also going to be doing one tomorrow morning from 9 to 11, so pretty excited about that, where I actually just get to focus exclusively on crypto, so kind of a fun thing, and we'll let you guys know more about that as we progress. But that's where I've been. That's why I had to take the day off. Also had a meeting I could not get out of. Shout out to everybody. We got Les, who finally came back in the top spot. Good to have you, Les. We have John as well as Mr. Collins from up in Fairfax. Good to have you with us, Chris. You've become a regular on this program now. I love it. Eric Tibor, who came in early today. Normally he comes in like the last 5 minutes of the show, but I guess we woke him up early today. Good to have you, Thomasina, Kenny, Matt, Ken, Jerry, Sam as well. Good to see you, my friend. Mario, Susan. Oh, yes. So good to have everybody with us. Today is going to be a little bit different. I didn't have any real specific topics. I had a couple ideas about things to talk about, but I thought, you know what, I've got a bunch of very random questions that have come in, so why not talk about random questions as far as today's activity? So that was going to be our trading Q&A. Now, that said, since I don't have a specific topic and I didn't do any clickbait, let's talk about markets overall. Now, these things are changing right now as we speak, but somewhat of an interesting day. I actually, just in full disclosure, I bought a bunch of puts today on S&P and NASDAQ. Those are kind of 120 days, so I'm looking out at the November expiration, and they're deep out of the money. These are, just letting everybody know, because as I analyze this, it's not that I'm very, very bearish. It's just the action today on some of these markets made me hesitate and said, you know what, I'm going to start building a little bit of a short position here. Anyway, let's start from the top and work our way down. Bitcoin was your number one performer today, and here you can see the daily chart on that. It wasn't really anything spectacular, and honestly, I think it's got a great trend forming. It's going to have a couple little pullbacks along the way, but as long as we stay above 44,000 on Bitcoin, you know, I think you're challenging 60,000 here in the next couple of weeks, if not a couple of months. So I'm pretty excited about what's going on in the crypto space. I actually had one question on crypto, which I will get to here in a second, but most of the crypto space looking rather good. There are a couple of weak spots, but we can talk about that later on as time progresses. Now, second place here, also had a question on this one, crude oil. You know, we've been talking about this for the past couple weeks. I have been overly bearish on this one simply because of supply and demand issues, because of OPEC, and also because of the Delta variant. I got to get some sound effects on the show instead of me trying to make them all. But right now, you've got a great bounce up on crude oil, and let me see if I can get to the viewer's question. It's actually Lowry. I hope I pronounced your name right. I don't know if it's Lowry or Lowry. It says, can you give your outlook on oil? All right, well, since we're on oil right now as our number two performer on the day, here's where it gets challenging, right? And I think you'd all agree, right now, since July, it's been looking weaker. And if I look at a lot of the big fundamental stuff, it actually is starting to look weak as well. So I'm not very confident from a fundamental perspective. Technical perspective. All right, if we look at just this picture right here, I'm bearish still. Even though we've had a huge bounce up from 62 to almost 69 bucks. And, you know, that's a giant move up in 3 days. Even though we've had that big move, it's really just coming into a supply level. So to me, it really depends on what happens as we get into that $69. Oh, the puns today. It really depends what happens when we get into 69. But thanks, folks. I'm here all day. But yeah, we're coming up to that $69 mark. And as you can see, let me draw some lines on the chart to drive home those points. You know, right around 69.05, you're entering into a supply zone. And it had a great move out of there. So I really like that supply zone personally, and I think you're going to have some struggles for crude oil getting above 69. If it does, maybe gets above 70, okay, well, then that bearish sentiment might be off. That means that we've gone through some overhead supply, and we might start to build and kind of grind higher from that point. T-Bar says, I was in it and got out. Yeah, well, story of my life. As you guys know, I think I told you, I was exercised on Friday for some options. I sold some puts on silver. It was executed at 22. I was going to do some covered calls, but I just said, you know what? I think this is actually going to run. I thought silver was going to have a nice move. So I just put a stop loss on it, and it took me out today and bounced right back up. And watch, over the next few days, silver will probably have a huge rally because it stopped me out of a pretty sizable position in silver. But hey, it's the nature of the beast there, Tibor. You know, this stuff happens. Just smile and move on and say thank you. May I have another, Mr. Market? It's been a pleasure. So, crude oil, going to Lowry's question, can you give your outlook? I'm actually somewhat bearish on it. not only on this intermediate trend because of technicals, but also because of the fundamentals. Now, here's where you'll get some technicians kind of go, well, Merlin, isn't this a pullback in the bigger uptrend? It is. And we talked about this pullback point, and it came right down to these lows that we saw established back in May of this year. So it was a pretty logical bounce point if you were going to identify one. Now it's about that fairly logical bounce point up if you see it, right? So we saw the bounce point up to 69. To me, that's your most logical stopping point, basically trading this channel range. So right now, I'm still bearish on crude oil. Might even be a time to buy some puts or go short as it approaches 69. But of course, if it gets above 70, got to have your stop loss in place and back away from it if it does hit your stop loss and move on. So, Laurie, bearish on oil in the intermediate. And I mean, obviously, long term, if you're looking at years, I'm bullish on oil. I think it'll just continue to go up over time. Let's see. What is Chris chatting about over there? Have 4,000 ADA at $1.38. One more ADA. Is that bad at this price? Well, we're going out of topic, but that's cool because I am a fan of Cardano and ADA. And he says you're long at $1.38. Obviously, you're up 100% right now, Chris. So you're loving that. My personal take on this is that you're going to see this continue to rally. Why is that? It's because they're rolling out smart contracts on the 12th of September. So 12th of September to me is a very big day for Cardano. If you actually, I was watching an interview with Charles Hodgkinson the other day, and it was kind of interesting. I didn't realize he was a drinker, and he goes, "I've got my bottle of whiskey over here, all excited and ready for the 12th of September." And you got to understand that Charles is not interested in the share price or the price per coin of Cardano. He's concerned more about the project and what it can do, what it can deliver for the world. So I think you'll see, small little pullbacks along the way. If there is a big pullback in Cardano, I will probably add some to my position as well. I think that you've got a lot more upside potential here in Cardano than downside. That said, look at the price chart. I mean, this thing has had a monstrous move. Just since July 19th, we were down around $1, and we almost hit $3 a couple of days ago. So it is a little long in the tooth, but I do think you're going to see it continue to move up. I really think you'll see $4, maybe even $5 by the time that the new upgrade is released for Cardano, and we see that roll out September 12th. So it'd be very interesting, but I am very bullish. I guess it really depends on you, Chris. Right now you've got a lot of paper profits, right? You got a lot of paper profits on your trade. If it does have a big pullback and you buy more now, it could erase a lot of those gains. But I think if you hold it for the longer term, you're probably in a much better position long term. So there you go. That's my Cardano place. All right, I'm going to keep going down the list. I'm not going to go into the Pfizer discussion you guys got going over there. Oh, my take on the vaccine. Oh, boy. So let's go back to the top. We went through Bitcoin. We went through crude oil. We actually answered Laurie's question on the outlook for crude oil. Here is the one that I like the most right now. I think you've got some great opportunity here with the Russell 2000. Russell 2000 today was up 0.43%, but you notice that it came right back into 2250 and started to sell off. I'm going to have to stretch this yellow box out even further. Let the yellow box show. There you go. I'm going to put it even further because we're going to stay inside that one for quite some time. Now, if you look at current price chart, yes, it's been 4 days of just epic move up. Off of where? Off an area that we saw it bounce many times before. So that's a logical point for it to bounce. And now we're coming right back up into an area of supply. The big question for Russell 2000 right now is, do we get above 2250? Do we close above it and challenge 2350? Right? That's 100 points. So a lot of upside potential here if it gets and closes above 2250, in my opinion. I think it's going to stall, and I think it's going to start to drift back down. I just think that the shortage and shipping issues and some of the other macro pieces facing our markets and economy are going to put a little more downside pressure on these indexes. So that's my take on it. So Russell 2000 was your third place finisher. What else do I got here? Bullish very long term. Well, of course, because Chris, this is the tough part about being in crypto or any asset really. Once you hold something, once you buy something, you're already biased, right? So you're already convinced yourself it's going to go to $300 in ADA, right? No, I don't think that. But we have to be realistic on what our targets are, what the impact is for it as a project, and what the prospects are for it. And right now it's moved into the number 3 cryptocurrency in the world. And I think that when smart contracts roll out, much lower fees, faster transactions, it's going to give Ethereum a huge run for its money. Now, right now, the ecosystem is absolutely dominated by Ethereum. But if they don't roll out their 2.0 and improve scalability and reduce their fees, they're going to get left by the wayside. So it's an interesting transition point, and I've been building up in a lot of these. I've been looking for a lot of competitors to Ethereum for that specific reason. Obviously, Cardano is one of those. You have Polkadot. You have you could talk about EOS if you want, even though no one really talks about EOS. Those are all some of the major competitors in this space. You could also look at things like Solana, which I'll talk about that here in just a second because that was another question from one of the viewers. So I'm definitely very bullish on the entire thing. Naum says, where do I go to create a Cardano hard wallet? You can use a Nano Ledger S, right? You can put your Cardano on Ledger. You can also use, there's different sites out there. Like for a while, there's one called Adalite, Adalite. Kind of tricky to have a hardware wallet for Cardano unless you're going to be using something like, these Nano Ledger S or Trezor. I recently moved my Cardano over to Kraken simply because Kraken's going to be paying me about 4% to keep it there. So, you know what? I'm happy to take 4% on the amount of Cardano I have. So an extra 4% per year, great. I'll take it and let it keep going. So I pulled mine off of hardware wallets or cold. Actually, it wasn't cold storage; it was hot storage because it was connected to the internet. But there you go. Marco says XRP to the moon. Boy, let's keep that one on the shelf, and I'll talk about that maybe later on if we have some time today. Jerry says Cardano, great buy at 240. Yeah, I think so as well. I think Cardano, again, you have to understand where it's going and what's happening for the roadmap. It's not just, Cardano's there. They're developing. They're actively rolling out a major upgrade to the network, which allows smart contracts. And to Marco's defense here, he talked about Ripple, XRP. They are talking about adding smart contracts to their platform as well. And smart contracts are all of a sudden becoming a bigger and bigger buzz. Of course, Ethereum already has smart contracts. Okay, let's keep going down this list. S&P 500, of which I added just a little bit today. I didn't really want to go overboard on the S&P today because it was so strong, because it was at all-time highs. You got your fifth day in a row of just nothing but gains. I mean, the S&P just seems absolutely unstoppable right now. That was your fourth place finisher, up 0.25%. Here's your Dow, which I usually don't talk about. It's coming back into all-time highs as well. And then here's the one that I added to, or I built, most of my puts I bought today were on the NASDAQ, the NQ. And really it's just about today's pattern. If you look at that small little spinning top on slightly higher volume, it's just indecision. And normally when you have big accelerated move like this, a huge accelerated move, and then a little bit of hesitation, normally there's a bit of weakness after that as people are like basically taking profits. And to me, it seems like that's about what's going, what could happen here with NASDAQ. So I built a position that's going to be expiring in November, at least my put options. I believe I'm going to go to the QQQ just so I can give you the exact numbers because I know you guys always want to know my numbers. I am in the, I think I'm in the 355s. I'd have to look, but I think I'm at the 355s, which basically comes back down to that demand zone into the demand area from July of this year, just a couple months ago. So I'm not expecting it to be a big pullback, but I ended up buying. I got it. I'll have to let you know the exact number tomorrow. I can't remember. I've been doing so many things today. Dr. Bonnie says, Kraken told me they are not a wallet. That's technically true. Kraken's an exchange, right? But Kraken has wallets, and that's where they keep your cryptocurrency. So they're keeping your cryptocurrency in a wallet. It's just in their possession, but they don't consider themselves a wallet. They're an exchange. So a wallet would be, this is the Nano Ledger S I have here is a hardware wallet. Yeah, you could look at this one here as a Bitcoin paper wallet. So there's all kinds of different wallets, but anytime you're dealing with Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, those aren't necessarily a wallet. However, when you send your cryptocurrency there, where are they putting it? They're putting it in a storage mechanism, and that is a wallet. It's just owned by them. So there you go. Brendan says S&P by December. Brendan, it's kind of funny. I was actually looking at the S&P and I was looking at the Decembers, but the premiums went up substantially for me to go from November to December on the S&P. So I went with November. That said, I'm not expecting to hold these put options until November. I will absolutely not. I mean, we are looking right now. It's August 25th. Well, I'll probably get out by early October, if at the latest would be for me. right? That would be the latest I want to hold it, because as you guys know, the longer you hold options and the closer it gets to expiration, the more value, more time decay you get there, and I don't want that. So I have this gut feeling, and sometimes my gut is very, very wrong, but I have the gut feeling that there's a black swan coming here. You know, you look at the things like some of the economic data slowing down, you look at your retail sales numbers, which slowed down. You look at housing, which actually showed some improvement. I was expecting it to slow down, but housing's still looking okay. Then you look at the shipping issues. And just because of my recent transactions with these electric bikes, realizing, goodness, prices have skyrocketed with regards to shipping. What do you think is going to happen with electronics for the holidays? So it's not just that my bikes were delayed by 2 months, right? It was 2 months extra for me to get these bikes. Well, what's going to happen to Best Buy when they've got 5 containers of TVs that are coming out here for the Christmas, Santa Claus rally, and they don't get here till January or February or March because of some massive delay? So I'm looking at a disruption in the holiday season. I'll probably reevaluate once we get into October and November and buy some, January or February puts. But right now, I just feel like there's going to be a little bit of a market sell-off. I'm actually really got my... I was thinking of doing a show, kind of, what could be, what catalyst do we have for the Black Swan event, right? What would be that event that just makes the market go, holy crap, and just implode? Now, I don't think it'll go down 50%, but I certainly believe that there's so many algorithm traders out there, and there's so much over leveraging going on. As someone's portfolio since March of 2020 has gone from, let's say, $200,000, it's now worth $500,000 or $600,000. They now have more margin to buy with, so they're probably in about $1 million worth of positions. They're overextending themselves. If we get a 5% drop in the markets, all of a sudden you're getting margin calls, you're getting position liquidations, which further exacerbates selling, and all of a sudden you get a market algorithm sell-off, which would be a little bit of a flash crash, and again, a black swan. I don't think we'll get civil war, Brendan. You always got to come in here and just throw the crazy conspiracy theory, buddy. No, I don't think we'll see a civil war, although it does feel like it sometimes. But we won't go into the politics side of it. So that's my take. I don't know how actually I got on that conversation, but I generally let you guys know when I'm building positions or in something, especially when I'm talking about that topic. So I've got puts on S&P. I got puts on NASDAQ as well. All right, we're going through the market still. So we have the Dow. There's your NASDAQ. And again, that hesitation is really what made me want to do it. Then we look at gold. Gold took a little bit of a dive today, down 0.87%. I'm indifferent. I really was expecting this thing to break those highs around 1840 and then just keep ripping, and then all of a sudden just fell apart. Really just showed a lot of weakness. So now I feel like we're just chopping on gold, not really feeling it. Now, this goes back to a question. Let me get to the question here. This is from Heather. Thank you, Heather. It says, silver or gold looking for a long-term hold? Very difficult. I'll bring up both of them up. I can't do a side-by-side here or above and below, but we'll look at just the overall trend of gold. You look at this trend here, and maybe I'll go to a weekly just to make it a little bit clearer on what we're seeing. Granted, it's up significantly from those 2019 lows, even the 2020 lows, but does it look like it's getting stronger or is it getting weaker? And to me, it really does feel like it's starting to get a little bit weaker. I'm starting to see lower highs. I'm starting to see the same lows right there in about 1673 on gold. If it starts to drift back down and challenge that 1650 mark, we could see it fall all the way down to 1450. So I really don't feel that optimistic on gold, at least from what this chart is telling me. I, for one, am definitely bullish long term on gold. I believe it's real money, whereas the US dollar is fiat junk that just gets overprinted. I think I told you this, or some of you may have seen my commentary if you were in the Elevate sessions I did on the crypto thing. But part of the reasons that cryptocurrencies are so interesting to me is the inability to print more of them for most cryptocurrencies. And if you look from 1950 to 2020, that's a 70-year window of time, the money supply increased from 1.5 trillion to 4 trillion. So in 70 years, we printed $2.5 trillion more money. Now, that's not a bad thing. Populations were growing, economies were growing. That makes sense. But remember, 70 years, we put in $2.5 trillion. Since 2020 through today, so a year and a half later, we've put in an additional $14 trillion, or printed an additional $14 trillion worth of money. Crazy to think, for 70 years, we only put in 2.5, and now we've put in 14 in a year and a half. To me, there's something wrong there. There's some fundamental issue with that amount of money that's been printed and manufactured. So crazy. Jerry says COVID 2.0 plus evictions equals a black swan. Yeah, I feel like the factors for it are piling up. I'm seeing more and more, I guess, reasons why we should see these markets sell off a little bit, but they just seem unbelievably relentless, and the media is touting it like all-time highs. You got to get in on these markets, and that's what happened back in 2000. 2000. I have a copy of Worth magazine where it says the great boom. Are you missing the boat? You know, basically encouraging everybody to buy. Well, I'm starting to hear more of that from the institutional side. You know, you're missing the boat. See you, Big Eb. Have a good one. I was going to make this an hour-and-a-half show today just for you, Big Eb, but now since you're leaving, I guess I'll just make it a 40-minute show like normal. You guys can blame Big Eb. All right, so let me. I know I'm getting off topic here, so anyway, I'll try to rein it back in. But gold, if we look at that price chart, it just doesn't look great right now. So what about silver? And I am much more bullish on silver. So silver's price chart, while it still is showing weakness, it's kind of, at least the most recent run that happened in late or early June, that peak there right around 2650, at least it's close to the previous high, whereas gold was significantly lower than that high, right? Gold's high was 2088. This most recent run up got us to 1919. So we're still $170 off that peak. Well, when I look at SLV, percentage-wise, it's pretty close to that peak. So I still feel a bit more bullish on silver than I do on gold. I know some of you will challenge me on that one. That's totally fine, but that's just my perspective. I like both of them, but I would much rather have silver right now than I would rather have gold. So there you go. Yes, well, who knows? Anything political, guys. It doesn't have to be impeachment. That could be any event with any political individual. And, of course, we all know that Mr. Biden is a little bit old there. Little old. Let's see. What else do I got? If you read my email on trend, doesn't that reinforce your gut feeling? Oh, you know what, Mike? I might actually do a special on that tomorrow. I want to look at those charts. So Mike LaRusso here is in chat, sent me a nice email. And if you guys, again, if you have comments, feedback, things you're curious about, maybe something you want me to do a show on, just go to TraderMerlin@gmail.com or email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com and send in those comments. Mike and many of you are very active in that space. Meaning you always send me questions. And again, people like Heather and those who send in questions kind of steer today's topic. So I think, Mike, I'm going to do a special show on that one because trends are such a challenging animal. It's one of those things that you can put a trend line almost anywhere to convince yourself that something has happened. However, they can give us clues, which is what your email was alluding to. Like, is this a warning sign? The shot across the bow, if you will, that we have an outlier. And then I think I'm going to do a show on that one tomorrow. I've got all this new preparation I have to do to get my Crypto Investor Live program done for 2 hours a week. 4 hours a week. Let's see, what else do we have? So that was it for our top 7. So let me go to some listener questions here. I had quite a few. I'm going to just one for Jimmy T. It's an interesting one. He says, trading overseas could have unsecured internet connections. I'm in Nueva Vallarta. Well, awesome. Well, congrats, Jimmy. I wish I was in Nueva Vallarta. It just sounds tropical. I don't know where that is, but it just sounds good. I'm in there this week with an unsecured connection, and we'll let the options expire today and sell new puts on Monday. So, of course, I'm a little bit late here. This was sent in on Friday. Where I'll be at my sister-in-law's house. I believe a secure internet, although still in Mexico. What connections should be made to safely trade while outside the U.S.? At a minimum, get yourself a VPN. VPNs you can get for a few bucks a month. It's no big deal. A VPN will allow you to create a direct connection to your ISP. So you're no longer going through... Actually, it creates an encrypted connection, so you're no longer susceptible to a lot of these attacks that could happen. I have seen so many specials on HBO and different channels where, like internet cafes in Thailand, they're logging keystrokes and they're tracking everywhere you go. They have software. So I knew a company that they would actually install on employee software a recording device. So they would see when employees were going to different sites or, going to Pornhub on their lunch breaks at the office. Not the best use of time, Bob. That type of stuff to, see where people are going. I know that IT can track where you've been surfing, where you've been looking at, but you go to an internet cafe or something like that, they can see all that stuff too. Especially if you're using their computers. Now, if you're connecting to a Wi-Fi, There's a really challenging thing as well. I did a special on this. You might be able to still find it under Power Trading Radio. Maybe I should redo it because it was really good talking about technology. Now, when you go out to, let's say, a Starbucks, everyone's like, oh, Starbucks is free. Starbucks is free. I can use their internet. Okay, really? I can go out there, and this is funny. I sat with Online Trading Academy's director of IT, who's awesome. This guy, he's a white hat. I mean, he knows all the bad stuff. He knows how to spot it. And he basically says, I have this box right here. It'll look like this, right? Here's a little box. And he said, with this box or a piece of software, I can create a spoof web browser, a spoof internet connection for you. So I can go out to your local coffee shop, sit in front of your Starbucks with my laptop, and I can create an internet connection that looks just like Starbucks. And I believe on Starbucks, if you sit there, it says like, connect to starbucks.google or google.starbucks. I think that's what their connections look like. Well, we could create one that just says Starbucks. And which one are you going to click on? The google.starbucks or the Starbucks one? You'll click on the Starbucks one. And that was a fake one. Now, everything you do, I can track. I know where you go, information you put in, credit cards, social security numbers, data, everything I can track. So from there, you should really be using a VPN and have the ability to use encrypted data from wherever you're traveling and doing your business around the world. Also, if you are doing business around the world, especially if you're trading, it might make sense to use something like 2FA, two-factor authentication. We talked about this last night in the CIL, going out and looking at how can I have a second layer of protection from somebody if they do get my username and my password. So I don't really have any fears of people getting my information. Of course, I don't travel like I used to. But it's definitely something you got to be concerned with, especially if you're trading cryptocurrencies and putting your private keys. If someone's taking screenshots, so say for example, you create a paper wallet. So I'll just do an example here right now. Let me go out here, and let's say I decide, I want to create a paper wallet because I want to send my Bitcoin to it. So we'll go to Bitcoin paper wallet. All right, so I go here, Bitcoin paper wallet generator. Oh, Ethereum phishing detection. So somebody is actually phishing for addresses here. So even if you use something that simple, they're potentially trying to steal your address. All right, let me try a different one. BitcoinAddress.org. All right, so this is creating a wallet for me. So I got to go through here. Wherever you move your cursor, it is building an encrypted wallet, and these are all just data points that it's using. You can see it says 52%. I'm going to cover all it up. All right, you can even use keystrokes if you want. Get to 100% here as fast as possible. Boy, it's taking a long time. There we go, 100%. So let's say I just created this, and I'm thinking I'm safe, and I'm now going to send my Bitcoin here. If someone has spyware installed on my computer and has gotten in because I had an unsecured connection, they now see my private key, right? And this right here could have all my Bitcoin. I could send $1 million worth of Bitcoin to this private address over here, or public address, and they have the private key. They can now take whatever I have. So use a VPN. Go research. There's a bunch of them out there. They're very different with regards to cost. You don't need anything fancy. You just need something simple that you can use, and that will be the easiest way for you to secure your internet connection, Jimmy T. All right, let me have a sip of H2O here. All right, what else did I get? Let's see. We're talking about camps. Where we got camps? Who's talking about camps? We going camping? All right, well, I won't go into camps. Let's see. What else do I have? Jimmy T had a good question. Heather had the gold versus silver question. I thought this was an interesting one. Normally, I don't really like to. I don't know. I try to keep private about most of my investments. If it's a big thing like the QQQs and the SPY today that I bought puts on, I disclose that. But I thought this might be kind of an interesting one. I did recently buy Solana. And part of what I'm doing, not only for the Crypto Investor Live program, but for myself on a daily basis, just like I think Brendan is here as well, is you're always scouring the market looking for, okay, what's hot? And while all of them are going to be altcoins in the crypto space, it's a question of which ones have potential, which ones maybe have a new twist on an old topic that can make it more efficient, more robust. And Solana is an interesting one because you guys might remember I've been talking about how EOS is one that does a lot of transactions. And I believe that one of these cryptocurrencies that we've talked about at some point will ultimately end up being a replacement for Visa or MasterCard because the fees associated with it are a lot smaller than Visa or MasterCard. Like I said, if I run my own business and you guys come to me with a credit card, I lose 3% of that sale to Visa. Why? I don't want to give away 3% to you. But if you came to me with, let's say, EOS, which doesn't charge any fees, I now keep 3% extra on my transaction. I'm way more inclined to be using EOS than I am Visa, but the system just isn't robust enough yet. Now, EOS can handle a lot of transactions, but can it handle Visa? Visa does something like 4,000 to 5,000 transactions per second. Anybody take any guesses as to what Solana can do with regards to transactions per second? Type in a chat here what you guys think. Well, how many transactions can Solana do per second? TPS, transactions per second. Now, as you guys are typing that in, I'll let you know that they came up with a different consensus algorithm. So there's proof of stake, there's proof of work. They came up with one, it's slightly different, called proof of history. And that changes the dynamics of what they can do with regard to transactions per second. So I have to wait for the YouTube delay here for everybody to type in their answer. But Ken says 50,000 transactions per second. Remember, Visa bought a cypherpunk for 150,000. A CryptoPunk. These CryptoPunks, I don't get it, guys. I'm not the NFT guy. Jerry, for damn good guess, my friend. You actually are the closest. So just to put it into perspective, guys, Bitcoin can do about 7 transactions per second. Ethereum can do about 15 transactions per second. Solana can do 65,000 transactions per second. So as I'm looking out for my investment portfolio of which one might be the transactional leader, right? I have ideas of who's going to lead in all these different segments. Solana rises to the top very quick. Exactly. Brendan says layer 2 solutions, solid. Then there are plenty of high throughput solutions out there. The only challenge with that is when you have a layer 2 technology, it's a second step. You have to do another process before you actually can get your transaction registered. And that in many cases can be cumbersome. For example, using the Lightning Network, you have to actually take some Bitcoin, set up your own channel, and now all of a sudden you have to let other people access that channel. It's cumbersome. As if cryptocurrency wasn't hard enough to transact with it to begin with, now you add second layer technology on it. Right now it's clunky. Even though you're right, Brendan, 100%, it does speed up transactions significantly. But Solana, if they can do that on their base layer of 65,000 transactions per second, now all of a sudden you're talking about a winning combination. So, Mark, you asked what's the latest cryptocurrency you bought? It was Solana, and that's some of the reasons why I bought that one. NJ says, I like Litecoin because it's been out there for a long time, price stable, and the CEO always been there for good. Well, you're talking about Charlie Lee. It's not that he's the CEO. Remember, it's part of this is it's designed to be decentralized, which is one of the things that the symbol for Solana is SOL. Here, I'll even bring up a chart for you. You can see, bear with me 2 seconds as I bring up the browser that had my trading screen on it. Nope, not that one. Okay, here we go. So there is and I will show you Solana. Here it's SOL is the ticker symbol. This is a weekly of Solana, and luckily I bought before this last huge run up, which I'm very happy about that one. My average price I think was $22, so pretty good there. Right now it's at 70, so we've seen a pretty substantial rise. I only bought a few $1,000s worth of it as I don't want to go too heavy. But again, I'm trying to splinter out my portfolio into a lot of little pieces of the pie so that if one of these does become the daddy or the king, I'll have some access to it. So SOL was the symbol for Solana. And Jerry, I'm not 100% sure if it's available on Coinbase. However, I think it is. If you read Coinbase's most recent letter, the quarterly report for what's called Coinbase Prime, which is institutional. I'll be talking about this tomorrow more in depth with the CIL. But basically, they're putting in $500 million worth of profits into cryptocurrencies. And of course, the logic would be they're going to put it into ones that they already have on their exchange. So you might be looking at Solana and Cardano, which I think they added Solana. I can't remember. I got so many exchanges in my head. So Litecoin, I have a lot of Litecoin, but if you understand what Litecoin is, it's simply taking the existing code of Bitcoin, multiplying it by 4. So instead of 21 million, there's 84 million Litecoin. It's also 4 times as fast. So instead of a 10-minute block time, it's 2.5 minutes. So it can do a few more transactions. But again, to really compete in the transaction space, you need to be doing at least 5,000 transactions per second, TPS, to be a high-speed utilized cryptocurrency, and most don't do that. Yes, SOL could easily have bad stuff go on at a network level, 100%. You know, their algorithm, well, it's a hybrid algorithm, could have some problems as well. So, Mark, that was my answer to your question on which is the last one I bought and why. And then I had one more question. I'll go to some viewers. Scott says, I bought the Australian dollar as it came into demand. It's 0.71. Where would you set your target? Aussie dollar. I've been watching this one quite a bit. Aussie was that huge sell-off right into an area where you're like, okay, this is where I'm expecting it to stall, and it bounced, right? It bounced a little bit higher. I thought it would go down closer to that 70 mark, but barely got to 71. If you're looking at the Aussie dollar right now, look, it's kind of like the same chart as gold, right? It's been just showing lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. Well, I think as you get back up into here, let's call it the 73 and a quarter. That to me is your next challenge point where it might get a little bit slow a little bit more difficulty going higher. So I think you're in a good bounce now on the Aussie long, but I don't see it getting above 74. I think between 73 and 74 is your stopping point for the Aussie as it resumes its downtrend and challenges that 0.70 mark. So there you go. That's my 2 cents on it. I could be dead wrong. Brendan says the Bitcoin is by far and away the most secure. Yep, I agree. And that's why it'll always stay proof of work. You have right now Ethereum going in that transition from proof of work to proof of stake. That to me is probably good for Ethereum and its purposes, but again, Bitcoin's the one I want to be the most safe and secure, and keeping it at proof of work will do that. So Jerry says Litecoin is dead. Its volatility is like silver. Well, and that's what they established themselves as, right? Early on, they said we'll be the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and it makes sense. I do have a pretty good position in Litecoin, but I'll be honest, it's one of the positions where I'm thinking of liquidating some of it and moving it into some other ones, right? You have a lot of these, I'm not going to call them mature, but you have a lot of cryptocurrencies that have already had that kind of the moon phase, right? Your Bitcoins, your Ethereums, they've already had substantial gains. There's a lot of stuff out there that is still underutilized, underdeveloped, and hasn't really had that big pop yet. And of course, there's new stuff coming into the market every day. There's been 100 projects created since Tuesday. Monday. Since Monday, it's now Wednesday. There's over 100 new products that have come to market already. It's just every day more and more and more. And some of those might be the next big thing. Who knows? Yep, I agree with Brendan. Ethereum is a cultural currency. Well, I think to me, Ethereum's more than a cultural currency. Ethereum is the pioneer in programmable currency, where you can now have all these smart contracts on it, but they can't handle the transactions and also the fees. I don't know why the Bitcoin or the Ethereum organization hasn't done everything in their power to get those fees as low as possible. For me to go down to one of these swap sites and go swap one Ethereum for some other token. I want to swap it for DAI. I want to swap it for whoever. I have to pay a massive fee. To me, to swap like $100 of Ethereum for another token cost me like $30 in fees. That's a 30% fee. Forget it. Whereas I can use Binance Smart Chain or some other ones and be paying a couple of cents. That's the way it should be. All right, let's see. So I already did my outlook for oil. I already did let me just show you guys, just so I got these questions out of the way. Australian dollar, we talked about that one. What's the latest cryptocurrency? That was Solana. I prefer silver over gold. Looking for a long-term hold, I think you're fine with either one, but I would pick a demand zone that you're comfortable with and say, all right, that will be where I buy it. You could also be selling puts like I am, where you're saying, I would like to own this lower. I sold some more puts on silver today at $21, so about $1 lower, which would be about 5% lower than current market, and I'd be happy to own it at 21. We talked about trading overseas. So this is what happened out there today in our markets. You can see some pretty interesting numbers, actually. The core durable goods orders, and that's where you strip out aircraft, right? So I'll get let me see if I can get my red pen up here. Get the red pen. There it is. I'm looking at this core right here. When you take out aircraft, you had a pretty significant jump up, and it was more than expectations. And I believe that the reason for this is I think a lot of companies are putting in much bigger orders now, trying to get whatever they can from China. So, I expected this number actually to be higher than normal, simply because people need to get inventory here. So order it early and pray it gets here in time. If it was like me, it should have taken 1 month for my bikes to get here. 1 month it should have taken. It took 4 months for them to get here because of just delays and cost. And by the way, the cost is, I think if you look at dry shipping costs, let me see if I can really show you. I might be able to do this live. Dry shipping. costs chart. All right, let's see. Baltic Dry Index. Where is that chart there? So here is the BDI, the Baltic Dry Index. All right, let me throw that over there for you guys. Boom. Just to put it into perspective, since January 2021, the cost of this was $13.97. So let's call it $1,400. It's at $4,200 right now. I mean, that is a gigantic increase in the cost of shipping. And look where it's gone since 2020. 2020, these lows were at 401, and now we're 10x. Shipping has gone up 10x in a year and a half. That's just ridiculous. But all that cost is going to get passed on to you and I. And, I went to buy some more bikes. I wanted to buy a bunch of them because a bunch of people have been asking me about these electric bikes, which I love them. They're amazing. Well, this is why these prices are going to be much higher. Not only is the cost of goods and services going to rise dramatically, so we might not see those Black Friday deals like we used to, but they may not even have the inventory because the delays are so high. Anyway, that's part of my logic. But anyway, durable goods orders much higher. We'll have to see later on in the next couple months how the delays are happening with regards to China. Now, crude oil inventories was also an interesting one today. You can see there was a slide in inventories of negative 3 million. So we basically had a nice little contraction there with regards to crude oil. And why is that important? Well, obviously, when you have supplies drop, you're going to see prices rise. And that's exactly what happened out there today. We rallied pretty significantly on crude oil to the tune of about 1.2%. Love it. Now, earnings-wise, not a lot of major stuff today that's noteworthy. The stuff that is noteworthy is this column here. Look at the surprises. These are some huge beats. I mean, everybody just blew out earnings here. Salesforce beat by 62%. Network Appliances beat by 21%. Ulta, 83%. Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean, come on, who's going out? 81% beat there. I mean, some pretty big beats across the board. Just a testament to people going out there and spending right now. But the forecast hasn't been that great because you see some of the reactions have been pretty down. Even though they beat by 9%, Autodesk was down 7%. So some of these aren't exactly all roses. Now for mañana, here's what we got cooking for the 26th. For the U.S., there is a huge number coming out tomorrow, and that's this one right here, G to the D to the P, gross domestic product. And the reason this is so important is it's the preliminary. This is one of the first measures, right? There's preliminary, there's advanced, and then there's the final and revised. There's like 4 different measures of GDP. This is the early one. This really gives people an idea of where we're headed with regards to GDP. Now, of course, an increase of 0.2% would be great. We would love to see the U.S. at a 6.7% annualized GDP. However, if that misses, right, and that might happen because of some of the slowdowns in prices, etc. I don't know which way this is going to go on tomorrow's reading. What I can tell you is at 5:30 in the morning Pacific time, an hour before the markets open, GDP numbers come out, and we'll have to just roll with it as it happens. But just so you know, that could be a major market mover tomorrow. You also have unemployment claims rolling out tomorrow, which, a lot of eyes still on the unemployment side of things. We are drifting back down. Remember, 250,000 is the kind of historical norm for unemployment claims. And we're 100,000 above that, but drifting slower each day, each week, which is a good sign for our economy overall. Lastly, down here, actually almost lastly, we have natural gas storage. So natural gas, it was on a tear. We had natural gas just spiking and spiking. We went from about 240 on natural gas to 420. Yes, we're talking about 69 and 420 on today's show. What a great show we're having today. But it's had over the past couple weeks a little bit of a pullback. And I think that you'll see some volatility come into NG, natural gas, tomorrow based off of these natural gas storage numbers. The key takeaway here, it happens an hour into the trading day. So 1 hour into the markets, natural gas comes out. And finally, as I scribble all over the chart, this boy right here, the Jackson Hole Symposium. Now, Jackson Hole Symposium, for those who don't know what it is, check out the Monday Morning Must-Knows I did for Online Trading Academy. I kind of detailed a little bit of it there. But basically, you've got over 100 academics and central bankers, a couple government officials, all getting together talking about economic issues facing the United States, problems, solutions, challenges, and any one of those can create some havoc for the financial market. So it's not saying they're going there to create problems or solve any problems, but it'll give us a little better idea as to what they're thinking with regards to economic policy going forward. So that's an important one. And that's going to happen for 3 days, right? You've got Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is Jackson Hole Symposium. So pay attention to that one. That could be pretty important. And of course, as we see this Aussie dollar bounce right up into what I think is a good supply level, you have retail sales numbers coming out as well. So it's a pretty loaded day for the 26th of August. Now, lastly, earnings. We've got Abercrombie & Fitch. You got the Hello Group, Marvell Technologies, Workday, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Burlington Stores, Dell Technologies, and I think you actually have VMware as well. Some of these are before market, some of these are after market, but all in all, a pretty active day with regards to announcements for tomorrow. Now, tomorrow's show. The named it after the wrong. Oh, but I'm dumb. I've actually been through Jackson Hole, and if anybody has, it is such a beautiful, quaint, cool little town. Of course, I went many years ago, right at the base of the Tetons, which are just such an incredible sight. I would highly encourage everyone to go there. Kind of weird they chose that spot as a retreat. The funny part about it is, this is where it gets really funny. It's the Jackson Hole Symposium, and here we are thinking that it's all these central bankers and the elites, right? The uppity ups. They invite the press, but the press has to pay to be there. And the argument is they have to offset some of the costs. Like, you guys are literally printing the freaking money. You can afford to go there. Come on, you need to make the press pay. Anyway, that'll do it for today, everybody. Again, tomorrow's show. What's tomorrow? Today's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. I will not have a guest tomorrow, so if you have a topic you'd like me to discuss, easy thing. Go out there to TraderMerlin@gmail.com. Send me an email there. Let me know what you want me to talk about. Most likely, I will get to the question which was dealing with trend lines and such, because I think it is important to know how to use these tools. Most of the time when you guys see my work, I'm generally naked on the screens here. I don't like to have a bunch of lines. I do like horizontal lines because that is a fixed number or range on a screen. But we'll talk about trend lines, the importance of them, and should you put your eggs in that basket and use them as an investment tool? Sure, why not? But make sure you're using them the right way and you don't but you convince yourself that those trend lines are always right? Cool. That's going to do it for me, everybody. Again, hope you enjoyed it. Have a fantastic evening. I will see you all on Thursday's show. Take care.